Today, we're diving into the basics of valuation with a focus on direct capitalization. The core idea here is straightforward: to estimate a property's value by using its income and a capitalization rate, or cap rate. Essentially, the cap rate is calculated by dividing the net operating income, or NOI, by the property's value. This simple formula provides a clear and practical framework for understanding how income translates into property value. Keep in mind, the takeaway is that the property's value hinges directly on two things: its income and the cap rate used. This approach makes it easy to turn income numbers into an estimated market value quickly and effectively. Let's talk about direct capitalization. At its core, it's a straightforward method for estimating the value of a property. Essentially, you take the property's net operating income, which is the income it generates after expenses, and divide that by the capitalization rate. This calculation gives you an estimate of the property's value. It's a simple and quick approach, which is why it's widely used, especially for income-producing real estate like rental properties or commercial buildings. Understanding this concept is key because it helps investors and appraisers quickly assess value based on income potential. Let's dive into why direct capitalization is so important when valuing income-producing properties. At its core, this method connects the property's income directly to its market value in a single, straightforward step by using a cap rate. This fast valuation logic makes it much easier and quicker to estimate what a property is worth based on its income. One of the biggest advantages here is that direct capitalization offers investors a consistent way to compare different properties. Since it focuses on the income generated and the operating performance driving that income, it gives a clear income-focused insight that reflects true market value. This approach is strategically relevant because it keeps our attention firmly on the key driver of value, the income stream. So, whether you're analyzing one property or making decisions across multiple investments, direct capitalization helps ensure your comparisons are based on solid, comparable data rather than guesswork. The core takeaway is that by linking property income to market value quickly, this method provides a reliable, efficient valuation signal that guides smart investment decisions. Here we have the core of our discussion, the basic formula that simplifies the entire method into one key equation: value equals NOI divided by the cap rate. Let's break this down. NOI stands for net operating income, which is the annual income generated by a property after all operating expenses have been deducted. Then, the cap rate represents the required return, usually expressed as a decimal or a percentage, that investors expect from the property. By dividing the NOI by the cap rate, we estimate the property's value, essentially what the income stream is worth in today's market. This formula is fundamental because it connects income generation directly to property valuation in a straightforward way. Here, we see a practical example of how to use the direct capitalization formula to estimate a property's value. The process is straightforward. You take the property's net operating income, or NOI, and divide it by the market capitalization rate, also known as the cap rate. In this example, the NOI is $120,000, and the cap rate is 6%. When you divide $120,000 by 6%, or 0.06, you get an estimated property value of $2 million. This means that the income stream generated by the property supports a value of roughly $2 million. It's a simple yet powerful method to quickly gauge the market value based on income. Here we have an example of how to estimate the value of an apartment property using the direct capitalization method. The property generates a net operating income of $180,000, and similar buildings in the market have a capitalization rate of 7.2%. To find the property's value, we divide the net operating income by the cap rate. First, we write the formula: value equals NOI divided by the cap rate. Next, we convert the cap rate from a percentage to a decimal, which is 0.072 in this case. Then, we plug the numbers into the formula: $180,000 divided by 0.072. When we perform the calculation, we get a property value of approximately $2.5 million. This shows how the direct capitalization method uses market yield to estimate value based on income. It's important to note that if the cap rate increases while NOI remains constant, the estimated value decreases, reflecting higher investor-required returns. Here, we're looking at some common variations of the formula used to value properties based on income. The key idea is to use the version that best fits the type of income you're analyzing. First, there's the stabilized income method. This is the most common approach and uses stabilized NOI divided by the cap rate. It's best when the income reflects normal occupancy and typical operations, so you're looking at a steady, predictable income stream. Then we have the forward-looking method. This uses a year one NOI divided by the cap rate. It's useful when next year's income provides a better picture of ongoing performance, especially if there are expected changes or improvements driving income. Lastly, there's a top-down shortcut, which is based on effective gross income, or EGI. Here, we multiply EGI by the margin, then divide by the cap rate. This method is handy when NOI needs to be estimated from EGI and an expense ratio, rather than being directly calculated. Even though these formulas look different, they all follow the same basic logic, just using different inputs to suit the income view you're working with. Direct capitalization works best in situations where the property's income stream is stable and market conditions provide clear, reliable capitalization rates. Essentially, this method shines when you need a quick, straightforward estimate of value without diving into a more complex analysis. For best fit scenarios, we look at properties with stable net operating income. These are typically stabilized assets where occupancy rates and income levels have normalized. Using direct capitalization in these cases gives you a credible and efficient way to gauge value. Another key point is leveraging active market comparables. When recent sales in the market give you clear cap rates for similar properties, direct capitalization becomes a reliable tool. It helps you rapidly assess assets, which is especially useful when making quick decisions related to acquisitions, lending, or portfolio management. Additionally, this method is excellent for comparing income-producing properties on a consistent basis, making it easier to evaluate opportunities side by side. The rule of thumb here is that direct capitalization is strongest for stable, steady assets rather than turnaround properties, where income might fluctuate or require deeper analysis. Overall, it's a practical, fast, and credible approach when market signals and proper performance align. Now, let's talk about some common pitfalls to avoid when working with risk controls. The key rule here is that clean inputs drive credible value, meaning your data needs to be accurate and relevant to get reliable results. The first pitfall is using the wrong net operating income, or NOI. It's crucial to use a true NOI, which means calculating income after accounting for vacancy and operating expenses. You should never base your calculations on gross rent or debt service, as that can lead to inflated or misleading values. The second pitfall involves a bad cap rate match. The capitalization rate must be appropriate for a specific asset, its market, its condition, and its risk profile. Using an incorrect cap rate can seriously distort your valuation. Lastly, ignoring change is a big risk. Relying on just 1 year's income data can be tricky, especially if rents, occupancy rates, or market conditions are changing rapidly. It's important to factor in these dynamics to avoid misleading conclusions. By steering clear of these pitfalls and ensuring your inputs are clean and well-matched, you can maintain strong risk controls and produce credible, trustworthy valuations. This quick reference guide is designed to help you apply the direct capitalization method quickly and accurately, especially when time is of the essence. The core formula is straightforward. Value equals net operating income divided by the capitalization rate. Keep this one clean formula in mind. When using this method, start with the annual net operating income, or NOI. Don't use gross rent or subtract debt service. NOI is the key figure here. Next, it's crucial to match the capitalization rate to your property. This rate should come from the market and reflect similar assets with comparable risk and income quality. Remember to convert the cap rate from a percentage to a decimal in your formula. For example, a 6% cap rate should be entered as 0.06. This small detail can make a big difference in your calculations. Also, check the income stability of the property. Direct capitalization works best when the income is stable and predictable. Properties with fluctuating or transitional income might require different valuation methods. Finally, keep in mind a rule of thumb. A higher cap rate typically means a lower property value, assuming the NOI remains the same. This guide helps you scan through these checks in seconds, making your valuation process efficient and reliable. Now, let's focus on mastering the formula that ties it all together, dividing the net operating income, or NOI, by the capitalization rate. This simple calculation is key to valuing a property with confidence. When you have a clear understanding of the income and a well-grounded cap rate, direct capitalization becomes a quick and practical way to make informed decisions. The critical takeaway here is to practice applying this formula using real-world NOI and cap rate assumptions so you can sharpen your skills. By doing this, you'll be able to assess value efficiently and accurately as you move forward.